Hello everybody, welcome to MATLAB tutorials. This is Tanmay and this is the fourth part of a series of tutorials on MATLAB basics, and in this tutorial we will learn how to enter matrices and vectors in MATLAB and how to perform different operations on them. So we will begin with vectors first. A vector is an ordered list of numbers. A vector of any length can be formed in MATLAB by typing a list of numbers separated by commas or spaces inside square brackets. So let us begin with a very simple example of a vector. So when you press enter, you get this answer. Now we will enter one more vector. Now this vector that we entered has spaces in between instead of commas that we used in the previous vector. So if you want to create a vector of values from 1 to 9 without entering them, this is a way in which you can do it. So now you have got a vector x which has elements starting from 1 to 9 because of this. Next I will write this statement. So now I have got a vector which has elements starting from 0 till 10, and each element is spaced by 2. So if you start from 0, the next element is 0 plus 2. After that you have 2 plus 2 which is equal to 4. Then you have 4 plus 2 is equal to 6. Then 6 plus 2 is equal to 8. And finally you have 8 plus 2 is equal to 10. So whatever number you mention here is the difference between the successive elements. So that's why you put this. You can also use fractional or negative elements. For example, so now every next element is 0.1 more than the previous element. Next, if you want to find any specific element in a vector, you can type this command. So this is the third element of vector x. If you see here in this vector, the third element is 4. If you want to find the transpose of a vector, you can type this x and a prime and press enter. So now your vector x is transposed from a row vector to a column vector. You can also perform mathematical operations on vectors. For example, if you want to find the square of these elements, you can type this. So this is your vector x, and you have squared each element of this vector to get this. Note that I have put a dot here, which means that when I say x dot raised to 2, it will square each and every element of x. But if I don't put this dot, let us see what happens. So as you can see here, MATLAB has given you an error. It says that the matrix x is not a square matrix, so it cannot multiply it. After this, we will multiply two different vectors. So this is the multiplication of x and y. In this, each element of x is multiplied to each corresponding element of y. So this is the x matrix and this is the y matrix. So if you multiply 4 by 0, you will get 0. If you multiply minus 3 by 2, you will get minus 6, and so on. Next, we will move on to matrices. A matrix is a rectangular array of numbers. So let us see the syntax of entering a matrix. So as you can see that whenever you are entering elements in a row, they are separated by commas, and when you are entering an element of the next row, you have to put a semicolon in between. I will enter another matrix. So to add these matrices A and B, you have to type this command. So this is the addition of this and this. You can also subtract these matrices. Since A has 3 rows and 4 columns, and even B has 3 rows and 4 columns, the order of A as well as B is 3 cross 4. So since these two matrices are not multiplicatively compatible, which means that the column number of A is not the same as the row number of B or vice versa, you cannot multiply them, and if you try to multiply them, you will get an error. See, it's showing an error that inner matrix dimensions must agree. You can also add a scalar to your matrix. For example, you can do this A plus 5. Now what happens is this number 5 gets added to each and every element of X. So when you do 1 plus 5, it is 6. Then 2 plus 5 is 7. So as you can see here, you have 6 and 7 and so on. Similarly, you can also do subtraction, multiplication as well as division. To demonstrate matrix multiplication in MATLAB, I will enter one more matrix which has the row number same as the column number of matrix A, which means that I will enter a matrix which has 4 rows. Now I will multiply matrix A with matrix C. So this is the answer. There are 3 rows and 2 columns. Since matrix A has 3 rows and matrix C has 2 columns, the order of the output matrix is 3 cross 2. Next, you can also do transpose of a matrix. For that, you need to enter the matrix name, that is A, followed by a prime. So now the matrix has transposed from a 3 cross 4 to a 4 cross 3 matrix. So that's all for this tutorial. In the next part, we will start with inbuilt MATLAB functions, how to use them, for example logarithmic or sine functions. So till then, goodbye and take care.